Great. All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to share about the work of Alignment Nashville. I hope that you're familiar with us, but if not, Alignment Nashville, pardon me, Alignment Nashville was created as a way to align our community's resources to address the most pressing needs that face our public schools. The things that we work on, I think we all know are vital to our students. Things like literacy, college and career readiness, chronic absenteeism, school culture and climate, and children's health. But they're not just important to our students. As we all know, they're also important to the overall prosperity of our community. Ensuring that our students can read, that they can graduate from high school ready for success in college and or career. All of these things matter to all of us. But the way that we create the solutions for these issues is unique. I like to say that Alignment Nashville is a little bit like a chef. I don't know if you watch any cooking shows, but a chef that's working to creatively create a meal, maybe out of ingredients that are already on hand and in the pantry, as opposed to going to the grocery store to get all new ingredients. Why does this matter? I think, first of all, it's important to realize, and I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but we all know that resources are limited. And as a community, we really have to be sure that we're using our precious and limited resources as wisely and strategically as we can. And second, you all know better than anyone that our community's needs are rapidly changing. Right now, Nashville is experiencing what many believe to be the fastest changing demographic of any urban district, school district in the country. Neighborhoods are changing, which means schools are changing, and we must ensure that resources are directed where they are most needed. For example, more than 1 of 3 MNPS students are from families that speak a language other than English. And that's up more than 7% just from last year. It's just one example of the very rapid shifts that we're experiencing here in Nashville. The good news is that the Nashville community of schools, nonprofits, government agencies, faith communities, higher education, and more, they've all proven their willingness to work side by side through Alignment Nashville. Through our 13 alignment teams, which are cross-sector work groups that are co-chaired by MMPS and community leaders, Nashville's community leaders meet monthly to plan, align, implement, evaluate, and sustain important initiatives such as the Academies of Nashville, Social Emotional Learning, Summer Reading Partners, Leaf Nights for International Families, and more. I'd like to share one example of alignment in action, and that's our Summer Reading Partners initiative. So much like the analogy of the chef that was working to create a meal from ingredients that are already on hand, our pre-K elementary alignment team has worked to create a way to combat summer reading slide with resources that already exist in our community. Summer reading slide, as you know, refers to the fact that many of our students lose ground, unfortunately, over the summer. They return to school each fall needing to review and recap instead of press forward. So to fight summer slide, our pre-K and elementary A team partnered with the Nashville Public Library, MNPS, and Lipscomb University to recruit summer camps to participate in a summer reading challenge, keeping more kids reading over summer break. They found 16 camps that were willing to participate, including many Metro Parks camps, churches, and more. Camp staff receives training from the Nashville Public Library, from MNPS and Lipscomb, as well as books and other resources and materials on how just to simply add reading to their daily routine and make it fun. All of this with no new resources. The exciting news is that it worked. Participating students not only prevented summer slide, but many actually gained ground over the summer with no new resources. The Nashville Public Library also gained many new partners, new Summer Reading Challenge participants, and important data about how to continue to improve their own programming, again with no new resources. Now that we know it works, this summer obviously we're planning to expand it to include additional camps. That may take additional resources to expand capacity, but we were able to prove the concept, create new partnerships, and align existing resources to have a real impact on literacy rates in the community. So in response to the question about the specific program or project or area of work, Alignment Nashville does request continued funding of $150,000 to continue to support our A teams as they plan, implement, align, evaluate, and sustain collaborative initiatives. Last year alone, this investment from Metro allowed us to leverage and or secure resources valued at nearly $2.6 million for the direct benefit of Metro Nashville Public Schools. These resources included a wide range of things, including volunteer hours, grant funds secured, primarily federal grants, trainings provided at no cost to Metro Schools personnel, books for summer reading programs, as I just described, and more. So these are very real resources that have been leveraged and aligned for the support of Metro Schools. Alignment Nashville provides staff support for the A teams, the facilitation, the strategic planning, project management, grant writing, data collection and analysis, and more. I'm sure many of us have had experiences serving on a committee that, like we like to say, did a good job maybe admiring a problem or being part of a collaborative effort that put together a great plan on paper. What we believe sets us apart is that we have dedicated staff whose only focus is to make sure that A-teams have what they need to work effectively and take action. The continued support of Metro will allow us to continue to provide this service to our 13 A-teams and nearly 250 community partners each year. In response to the question about the impact of our work and concrete outcomes that we expect to achieve to create a more equitable Nashville. At Alignment Nashville, we believe that we must continue to work to address the pernicious, persistent achievement gaps that have plagued our community for far too long. These gaps threaten the individual prosperity of too many of our young people, which in turn threatens the prosperity of our entire community. The only way we can do this is to work towards shifting conditions that are holding these problems in place, which is exactly how we define true systems change. We've actually developed and are currently implementing what we call an equity playbook that holds our A-teams, our staff, and our board accountable for specific actions, ranging from hiring and staffing policies to the composition of our A-teams and our board, to the disaggregating of data and outcomes. These are just a few examples that are from our alignment teams of specific concrete outcomes that we will be supporting through our A-teams over the next year. And each one of these, again, will be held accountable for disaggregating data and outcomes to make sure that they are addressing the gaps among our subgroups. So, for example, under the pre-K and elementary A-team, which I referenced earlier with the summer reading partners, their specific concrete outcomes for the coming year are to increase the number of students that read at least 600 minutes by 10% over the summer, to increase the number of students that read 660 minutes or more to 30%, that 80% of participating students for each subgroup will meet or exceed expected FAST, MAP, and GOLD scores from spring to the August, that will increase third grade English language arts scores by 2% across subgroups, and then in the long term also increase 8th grade ELA scores by 2% across subgroups. And again, that is through the power of the partnerships and aligning existing resources in among our partners. Another example will be with our high school A-team. They're working to increase literacy ACT scores, which are connected obviously to career and college readiness. Their specific outcomes that they're working towards would be students reporting an increased confidence in reading of at least 70%. Students report also an increased interest in reading. Students report an increased likelihood of applying for dual enrollment, which is an early post-secondary opportunity, by 50%, and that we actually have an increase in dual enrollment credits earned by students, as well as a 5% increase in industry certifications that are earned, with a final long-term outcome of 30% of participating students exceeding that 21 benchmark on the ACT. One more example will be from our Integration of International Families team, which is working towards the literacy and English language acquisition of our international families. I know the specific concrete goals there would be that 75% of participating parents will improve their English skills, and also 75% of parents will increase awareness of available organizations and resources to support their family, as well as an increase in MAP and English language learner scores among participating students. So we appreciate the consideration of our request, and I must say that we're very honored to continue to serve side by side with MMPS, Mayor's Office, so many of our community partners to continue to improve outcomes for Metro School students.
I have a couple of questions.
Absolutely.
You mentioned your participation goals, and you mentioned some specific percentages, like 75%.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me what that transaction volume, what's the total there? Are there 100 kids or are there 500 kids?
Sure. Well, this
So
summer,
that I can put that in perspective.
absolutely. So this summer for the pre-K elementary, our goal is to have at least 1,100 students.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that would be the total universe. And then 70, if we translate that, that 80% of the students meet or exceed their goals for which are their pre and post test scores.
And then I have one more, and then you probably have your question. This equity playbook
Mm-hmm.
that you were talking about launching, would Tell me how something like that gets rolled out and who it gets rolled out to and how it is implemented.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could have a guide, but I just want some level of assurance that it would be used.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's, it starts with staff. So that would be our role, and we're actually in the process of that. So a lot of the accountability, it actually started with our board of directors. So a lot of the accountability for their actual outcomes associated with that. So that's something that I'll be reporting to our board of directors on an annual basis. A lot of the items in the playbook are very pertinent to our process. So, you know, it has a lot to do with when a team is creating an action plan, that they're actually disaggregating the outcomes and not just looking, for example, at the overall literacy rate, but how are different subgroups within that performing. And the accountability for that will also be with our board of directors and with our staff. And so it really is, I mean, it's something that I think would be very transferable to others and we'll be happy to share, but it really does guide the day-to-day work of our staff and our A teams.
What's your annual operating budget?
Our annual operating budget for the work of Alignment Nashville is about $750,000. We do have 2 other national initiatives that we operate, and so our overall budget, including those, is about $3 million. But those are primarily externally focused.
Those are in Nashville and they have a different mission? Or?
They're housed in Nashville, and their mission is to spread the work that we do and to support other communities as they do that. But they really do operate under our umbrella, but they are separate initiatives, if that makes sense.
Who's on an A team?
An A team is typically 15 to 20 people. It's co-chaired by a community leader and a Metro Schools leader. And the rest of the stakeholders, I mean, we really strive for diversity of experience and perspective. And so the chairs form those teams with the approval of our operating board, which those are all the chairs of all the different A teams. So a typical A team will have, you know, representation from government agencies, from the school district, from nonprofits that serve that population group or have expertise in that content area. Another action from our equity playbook is that we're actively working to add folks with lived experience to each one of our A teams so that we have some context expertise represented as well on each team. So they look a little different, but they're very cross-sector.
I have another question. How much funding do you receive from Metro Schools?
We receive $200,000 a year.
And the amount of money that you received from us last year, you said that you used that to leverage $2 million more in funding?
Yes, sir.
It was a combination of federal funds and state funds? Or
Yes, sir. I mean, some of that is, as I mentioned, some of that was federal grants that we helped to attract that went to Metro Schools that did not come to us. Some of that is in volunteer hours, in-kind resources, so it's a kind of wide range of kinds of resources.
The 2.6 million is for the 3 sectors?
No, that's resources that were directed towards to support Metro Nashville Public Schools.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, it's been terrific.
Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Okay.
All right. Signing off. All right, thank you very much.